I talked about the song "Gifted Every Strength" last year as it was like it was like my top five. In my top five of songs, I think it was actually my number one song of the year, if I remember right. I'm not gonna verify that. If I wanted to verify it, I should have written it down before I hit record. But that song was then, a year later, being pushed as going to be on an album released by Loathe. An album that they haven't released an album since The Things That They Believe, which you could argue isn't even really an album from them because it's like an ambient kind of track list, and it's nice. I like it, but it's not like their usual stuff. It feels like a side project. Um, but so this is like their first album since February 2020, and it's obviously like not their first song. Like they made a single in 2022, that not a lot of people have really heard, I guess. But yeah, Gifted Every Strength was like a nice comeback, and then we waited a whole year for an album announcement. We got Revenant, which I like the beginning of Revenant. That's beautiful. That's like one of the best things I've ever heard is the beginning of that song. Where it's like the, there's like really beautiful guitar sounds that they have in that. I think that's what it is. It almost sounds like heavenly. But I didn't really fuck with the song. I had to listen to it a lot to like it. So it's all right. And then Fangs came out, and I was like, I could see the vision, but I had a feeling that the songs would sound better as a collection of music, like as a full blown project. And so I didn't really judge it too much. I wanted to wait for the album to actually come out to judge those songs. And the album's out. It came out on Friday. I did listen to a couple of the songs a day early. Call me Australian. Booked my digital ticket to Australia. But yeah, I really enjoyed this album actually. This is definitely like a top 5 album for me for this year. I really enjoyed it. I think the songs go really well together. Revenant's transition from the intermission track with the Arabic title, transitioning into Revenant, makes it so much better. And then the transition from Revenant to the way it breaks, oh my god. That's perfect. That made the song so much better for me. And yet when I go through my list of how I ranked the songs on this album, it's still going to be kind of low because all the songs on this album were so good. Gifted Every Strength is still my favorite song on this album. Which, I mean, come on, guys. It's a 6.5 minute long, like crazy roller coaster of music. And on the album, they actually added an extra minute and a half of like acoustic, which I'm fine with. It took me a minute to get used to it, but I'm fine with it. But Gifted Every Strength is definitely my favorite song. My favorite non-album song, though, that's like or not non-album song. My favorite non-single song that's unique to this album has to be Fortress Down. Fortress Down sounds like screaming from I Let It In and It Took Everything. I love that song. It's quick. It's clean. And the lyrics are great. And the way that his voice carries those lyrics are great. And there's like one line in the second half of the song. I have to pull this up. Give me them lyrics. Sorry, I probably just blew out the speakers. In the second half of the song, when he sings, I don't know where I went wrong. After, he says, facing this alone, I don't know where I went wrong. The way that he sings that part, perfect. Perfect. Love that. That's like my favorite part of the song is when those lines come out of his mouth. And then the like even beyond that part, the whole rest of the song after that is great. I love that whole song. That song's awesome. I've definitely listened to it like 30 times at this point. when I get my Wrapped at the end of the year, it's gonna be on the top probably. Um, I had some notes that I wrote down. There's no way I was gonna remember all of this off the dome. I do think that this album sounds like a combination of their last two. The ambient one, the things that they believe, or the things they believe, and I Let It In, It Took Everything. It sounds like those two albums merged into one piece with additional new elements added to it. Like this album feels like a culmination of the style they had on I Let It In, new elements introduced, and then the things they believe, ambient elements all combined into one. And it's awesome. I love the like the solo on The Way It Breaks, the Ladder, the like really chill song that sounds nothing like the rest of the album. I love that song. The end of that song, like the second, or I guess like the last minute and a half, when it's like he's just repeating the same two lines over and over. That part reminds me so much of One More Hour by Tame Impala. How that song ends. Where he just keeps repeating the same lines, and it kind of has like the same like phaser effects and all of that. It follows the same kind of beats. I love that. It reminded me so much of the Slow Rush, and in a good way. I really like this new trend because Thornhill did it too last year, where they just include one song on their album that completely bends whatever genre they were going for in the other songs. I gotta breathe. Goddamn. And just like picks a whole new genre for itself to go down. That was Crush on Bodies by Thornhill, where it was like out of nowhere going from this really heavy song to like this little like contained like R&B style track with a lot of electronic elements. Same thing with this album where the Ladder comes in and it's like this nice little indie kind of psych pop sound that gets kind of trippy by the end. I like that. I like that a lot. And I think that's the song that leads into Gifted Every Strength, which is such a whiplash of tonal shift to go from that to like this crazy ass, like variety time signature, like heavy ass metal song. That's such a crazy transition. I had some notes like Fortress Down sounds like screaming. No Stranger to You, which is the last song on the album, sounds a lot like Two-Way Mirror. Not even really sounds like it, just really reminds me of Two-Way Mirror from the first album. Shouldn't even say the first album because it's not their first album. From the last album. The Static Dress song is definitely in my top 3 on this album. That song just comes out of the gate and fucking blows it out of the water. I mean, that song got me so hyped for the rest of the album. I liked all the interlude tracks. I didn't include them on my ranking because the interlude tracks are less like songs and more like spoken word. I know that the Knife one isn't really like that. It has some singing, but it just didn't have enough to it for me to include as like a whole song. And then the other two are just like spoken word tracks and clearly just meant to be transition / like slowdowns, which is fine. I'm fine with those being on albums. I just didn't think it was enough to be included on the full ranking, especially because there's already so many songs on this album. I just wanted to keep the rank nice and clean. I did have one negative thing to say about the album. And this is such an audio engineer head thing to say from me. I found myself turning up the volume on the stuff I was listening to it on way too high. The master on this album is too quiet in the first half. The second half is fine. Weirdly enough, the second half of the album sounds fine. It's up to normal levels. It's the first half of the album that feels like it's not, like whoever mastered it didn't carry it enough to the ceiling. And I find myself like in my car having to bump my volume up well past what I'm used to. And I know it's not just me. Like I know it's not just like my car. My AirPods, I'm having to do the same thing. And then when I queue up other songs in between those songs that are separate from the album, I get like fucking pelted immediately. Like I go from a block of flats to like a Thornhill song, and it just bust my eardrums. So I think the master might be a little too quiet on the first half of the album. But that's like my only critique. If that's my only critique, this album's pretty fucking good. I gotta say, this album's pretty damn good if that's my only note about stuff I didn't like about it. I guess I could say that I'm not a big fan of the album cover, and I've heard that's a very common sentiment amongst people that have listened to this album, that they don't like the album cover very much. I mean, I'm not a big fan of it. I think it could have been a little better in terms of like, if you compare it to like all their old album covers. I liked the theme they were going for with those. But it's fine. It doesn't like ruin the album, obviously. I don't mind it. I'm sure it'll be like a classic album cover to all of us in a couple years, but yeah, like just off the jump, when I saw that the Revenant single cover was also going to be the album cover for this album, I was a little like about it, but I'm fine with it. So here's my official ranking. Gifted Every Strength is clearly number one. That song has so much going on in it. Way too crazy of a fucking song. It's just so creative, and I've re-listened to it a billion times. I think it was even like my number one most listened to song last year. If I remember right. It might have been like in the top 3 at least. That song is number 1. Fortress Down, number 2. I've already said why. Block of Flats, number 3. That song is just so good. And really blends the Loathe and Static Dress styles so well. And so I like that song a lot. Take a breather here. Jesus. Tell I'm passionate about this. I'm yapping my way all the way to my brain exploding. Number 4 is The Way It Breaks. I just really like the way that song feels. The atmosphere in it. Like, the environment of the song just really fills the entire space for you. Like, fills your head. It kind of takes you on almost like a ride, I guess. I was laying in bed when that song came on, and I was like, oh my god. Album of the fucking year, folks. Like, that's immediately what I thought when that song came on. So loved that song. The Ladder was really good. That's my next one, number 5. Love The Ladder. I just really like the way that it fizzles out at the end with that Tame Impala vibe. Number 6 is No Stranger to You. There's just something about that song. Even on like my 9th re-listen today, like on my way home, I got goosebumps from the end of the song. Because it's just the way they end the song. It's such a perfect closer for an album, and the way his voice sings out those last 2 lines. Oh, that song's so good. Number 7 has to be Harder to Pretend. I like Harder to Pretend, and I like that little like jazz number they almost do in the latter half of the song. I like the little, you know, the little beat they go with, and the little like jazzy vibe they have to it. But like it's not ranked higher just because I feel like the chorus is a little repetitive. But other than that, I really like that song. Fangs is next. Fangs, I like it, but I don't fuck with it like I do the rest of the album. Revenant's after that. I like Revenant. It's just there's like a part of it that I'm not a big fan of, and it's the like crazy out of control blast beats. Let me just play it. Fuck it. If I get like a copyright claim on this, I don't care. If I have to cut this out, whatever, so be it. But it's like the crazy ass like blast beating. Let me see if I can find it without playing the whole ass song. It's not that part. This part. I'm just not a big fan of that part. Like, it gets good after a little bit of that happening, but I'm just like, all right, we could have cooled it down a little bit on that part. That's the only reason I didn't really like that song very much when it first came out. I've grown more fond of the rest of the song, the other parts of the song that aren't that. But, you know, it's just not my favorite thing to listen to. Like, I really liked it on other songs. It's just like that one. Eh. Eh. Next is Meet My Maker. That song's alright. It's not very memorable to me. I'm sure it'll grow on me because I do this thing where I exhaust the hell out of parts of albums that I like, and then I go, well, I have nothing else to listen to. I'm sick of listening to this. Let me give the other parts of the album a try. I'm sure Meet My Maker will grow on me a little bit more. I'm not super into it right now. Gemini is the last one. Gemini is not a bad song. Just because it's at the bottom doesn't mean it's bad. I would say that song is really good. I personally don't enjoy it like I do the other songs. I'm already not a big fan of really hard ass metal, like screaming hard ass metal. I like it in moderation. That song, although I find that like house beat at the end, that like really hard ass blast beat at the end, not even really a blast beat. It's just like a really hard ass beat at the end. Although I really like that, the journey I have to take to get to that point, I have to let it grow on me. Like I don't really enjoy a whole lot of really hard ass screamo type of songs. And that's just me personally. This whole ranking is just my personal opinion. It's not how I objectively feel about the songs. Objectively, I think the whole album is great. It's just like subjectively, that's my thoughts on each song and what personal enjoyment I got out of it. You might be wondering, like, well, what about I Let It In? There's a lot of heavy metal parts on that album. And you're right, there are. And there are parts of that album that I don't really listen to that much because I'm not a big fan of them personally. But I agree that they are good songs. They wouldn't have, Aggressive Evolution wouldn't have 18 million listens if it wasn't a good song. It's a good song. Personally, I don't listen to it that much. I'm more of a sad cartoon kind of guy, or, you know, a screaming kind of guy, or New Faces in the Dark is also pretty good, which that song has a lot of hard parts, but it balances it really well. I'm more of a theme kind of guy, or I Let It In and It Took Everything, you know, the last song kind of guy. I'm more of that kind of dude. I like those songs. But that doesn't mean that I necessarily hate the other songs. I just don't want to listen to them. All right, so what would I rank this album overall? I would say that this album is a 8 out of 10. It's not like perfect, but it's pretty damn good. I can't think of too many albums that cross the 8 into like 9 or 10 territory. I really can't think of too many albums that cross into that territory for me personally. And keep in mind that ranking is how I personally rank it. That doesn't mean that it, you know, is a bad album. That's just how I personally rank it. So, you know, if you consider it a 10 out of 10, that's your opinion. I'm just saying I consider it an 8 out of 10 because of what I think of as a 10 out of 10 is wildly different from you probably. And if I said what I consider a 10 out of 10 album to be, you'd probably like punch your monitor or something. An example of a 10 out of 10 album for me, probably Currents by Tame Impala, Koi no Yoken by Deftones. I would consider those albums 10 out of 10s for me. What else would I consider a 10 out of 10? There's definitely a handful. It just takes a lot to get me to rank something that high, if that makes sense. Let's see. I would say Private Music by Deftones is like a 9 out of 10. All because there's one song on there that I don't really like very much. Bodies is I would say Bodies is a 10 out of 10 by Thornhill. That album's a 10 out of 10. I would say Slide by George Clanton is a 9 out of 10. So there's a lot of albums I would consider 9 and 10s. This album I would say is an 8. And honestly, it probably could inch up to a 9 over time. The more I listen to it, the better it gets. If I had ranked this like the night I listened to it, I probably would have said like a light 8. I would say this is a heavy ass 8, light 9, if I would go on the Fantano scale, and that this will probably be a 9 by the time the year's up. I'll probably consider it a 9 out of 10 by the time like December rolls around. Once I've listened to it 50 times over for each song and dissected it in every way, shape, or form and watched every reaction video to it, I'm sure it'll be a 9 by that point.